Good day, students. You are welcome to yet another session of this course, which is study session 2, which will discuss the historical context of epidemiology. Sit back and enjoy this lecture. Moving to the introduction, epidemiology's roots are nearly 2,500 years old, and Hippocrates attempted to explain disease occurrence from a rational rather than a supernatural viewpoint. Although epidemiology as a discipline has blossomed since World War II, epidemiologic thinking has been traced from Hippocrates through John Grant, William Farr, John Snow, and others. In his essay titled On Airs, Water and Places, Hippocrates suggested that environmental and host factors such as behaviors might influence the development of diseases. At the end of this study session, you should be able to explain the origin of epidemiology, including the early epidemiological observations. You should be able to discuss epidemiology in the 21st century and should be able to highlight the scope and uses of epidemiology. Moving to the origin of epidemiology. The Greek physician Hippocrates, known as the father of medicine, sought logic to sickness. He is the first person known to have examined the relationships between the occurrence of disease and environmental influences. Hippocrates believes sickness of the human body to be caused by an imbalance of the four humors, the air, fire, water, and earth atoms. The cure to the sickness was to remove or add the humors in question to the balance of the body. This belief led to the application of bloodletting and dieting in medicine. He coined the terms endemic for diseases usually found in some places but not in others, and epidemic for diseases that are seen at some times but not others. In the middle of the 16th century, a doctor from Verona named Girolamo Fracastro was the first to propose a theory that these very small, unseeable particles that cause diseases were alive. They were considered to be able to spread by air, multiply by themselves, and to be destroyable by fire. In 1543, he wrote a book, De Contagion est Contagiosis Mobis, is a French word, in which he was the first to promote personal and environmental hygiene to prevent disease. The development of a sufficiently powerful microscope by Anton van Leeuwenhoek in 1675 provided visual evidence of living particles consistent with a germ theory of disease. Epidemiology originates from Hippocrates' observation more than 2,000 years ago that environmental factors influence the occurrence of disease. However, it was not until the 19th century that the distribution of disease in specific human population groups was measured to any large extent. This work marked not the only formal beginnings of epidemiology, but also some of its most spectacular achievements. Looking at the early epidemiological observations, John Snow located the home of each person who died from cholera in London during 1848 to 1849 and between 1853 and 1854, and noted an apparent association between the source of drinking water and the deaths. He compared cholera deaths in districts with different water supplies and showed that both the number of deaths and the rate of death were higher among people supplied water by Southwark Company. On the basis of his meticulous research, Snow constructed a theory about the communication of infectious diseases and suggested that cholera was spread by contaminated water. He was able to encourage improvement in the water supply long before the discovery of the organism responsible for cholera. His research had a direct and far-reaching impact on public policy. Snow's work reminds us that public health measures such as the improvement of water supplies and sanitation have made enormous contributions to the health of populations, and that in many cases since 1850, epidemiological studies have identified the appropriate measures to take. It is noteworthy, however, that outbreaks of cholera are still frequent among poor populations, especially in developing countries. Looking at epidemiology in the 21st century, in particular, in the last decade, there has been increasing concern about the limitations of the risk factor approach and considerable debate about the future direction of epidemiology. In particular, it has been argued that there has been an overemphasis on aspects of individual lifestyle and little attention paid to the population level determinants of health. Furthermore, the sources of risk factor epidemiology has been more temporary and more limited than might have been expected. For example, the limited sources of legislative measures in industrialized countries has led the tobacco industry to shift its promotional activities to developing countries so that more people are exposed to tobacco smoke than ever before. Similar shifts have occurred for some occupational carcinogens. Thus, on a global basis, the achievement of the public health movement has often been to move public health problems from rich countries to poor countries and from rich to poor populations within the industrialized countries. It should be acknowledged that not all epidemiologists share these concerns, and some have regarded these discussions as an attack on the field itself rather than as an attempt to broaden its vision. The first and the most important issue is the need to consider the population context when conducting epidemiologic studies. Even if one is focusing on individual lifestyle risk factors, there is good reason to conduct studies at the population level. Moreover, every population has its own history, culture, and economic and social divisions, which influence how and why people are exposed to specific risk factors and how they respond to such exposures. This increased interest in population level determinants of health has been particularly marked by increased interest in techniques such as multi-level modeling, which allow individual lifestyle risk factors to be considered in context and in parallel with micro-level determinants of health. Let's look at the scope and uses of epidemiology. A focus of an epidemiological study is the population defined in geographical or other terms. For example, a specific group of hospital patients or factory workers could be the unit of study. A common population used in epidemiology is one selected from a specific area or country at a specific time. This forms the base for defining subgroups with respect to sex, age group, and ethnicity. The structures of population vary between geographical areas and time periods. Epidemiological analysis must take such variation into account. Looking at causation of diseases. Although some diseases are caused solely by genetic factors, most result from an interaction between genetic and environmental factors. Diabetes, for example, has both genetic and environmental components. We define environment broadly to include any biological, chemical, physical, psychological, economic, or cultural factors affect this interplay. And epidemiology is used to study their influence and the effect of preventive interventions. Epidemiology is also concerned with the cause and outcome of diseases in individuals and groups through health promotion that can affect health. Thank you for listening. See you in the next study session. Bye for now.